one thing I'll share, and this actually, he also sort of wanted to talk about how industry can interact with PMs in the government. One thing everybody needs to understand is PMs in the government have no time to do the job that they need to do. And everybody complains about AI coming and taking jobs. We're welcoming it because we do not have enough people to do the job that we are assigned to do. Every single day, tasks are left undone for the next day, and you finally run out of energy, and you just got to push it to the next day. This is where federal men and women spend their life, on the PM side. So the challenge here is what I've seen in the past is, and I've shared this with my friends at the procurement office, I would like to go consume, as a PM, I would like to consume procurement as a service, where I come to you with my requirement and you're able to walk me through what I need to do.
Welcome to the Best8a Podcast. In this episode, we talk with Bill Pratt, Executive Director at Relay Group and former DHS IT Director. Here's what he had to say.
Thanks, Ezekiel, for having me on to start with. But my career at DHS was amazing because I started at the old INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service, right after 9/11. There was a system there, a former system, that was supposed to track, there's a watch list, of course, right, for terrorists. There's also, many, as you may know, many foreign nationals come to America for training. And so the folks who flew the planes actually came to training in the United States. Those two systems weren't talking together well. As a result, that was a miss. And so we came to work on this system called SEVIS, which is still out there, and Student Exchange Visitor Information System, which everybody knows now, but of course this was 2002. So I had the honor of working on the very first release of SEVIS. And Congress had made given a strict mandate, so we need to have this turned on by January 1st, 2003. And I think I joined a contractor in May to work with INS to get started on it. And it was a lot of work to do. So we worked hand in hand with the development contractor and, literally shared spaces and did a lot of agile IT development way earlier than we thought it was popular. We actually tested while we were developing, which was quite interesting. And we didn't even know what we were doing at the time, which we just didn't know it was agile.
So, but the concept of agile was there or no? We're doing agile, but the concept was not probably there, you think?
Right. Yeah, the guys were thinking about it, but we weren't. We were just trying to figure out how we were going to get this all done. So we did make that date very successfully. The system's gone on to be the standard for tracking student and exchange visitors. So that was very exciting. But and then of course in 2004, 2005, DHS was actually stood up. So I was at INS supporting the immigration and the enforcement systems at the time as a tester, and then eventually moved into quality assurance management, managing the development lifecycle. And this was at INS. And then when DHS was stood up, it split up the portfolio that I formerly had, and it became ICE, it became USCIS, and it became US Visit, now known as OBIM, Office Biometric.
Wow, all these concepts are still around. All these concepts are still around. CVs, OBIM, that's amazing. I love it.
They're still around. So, legacy IT modernization is a whole nother, we could do a whole show on that. But yeah, it was interesting. So, it seemed interesting to me always that, DHS came in presumptively to put an umbrella over all of these agencies. And then the first thing they did is split my portfolio up into three. But the great thing was it gave me friends, that USCIS, friends at ICE, where I stayed actually. And then of course at US Visit OBIM to this day. And then in 2008, I flipped and became a Fed. I had been a contractor, and I'd been a contractor. I worked for the Navy early in my career when I got out of the Navy for about 13 years as an IT development and test engineer. But then I stayed at ICE until 2013. I managed their system development lifecycle at ICE and all the quality assurance of IT acquisition. And then in 2013, a lovely person named Carlina Leto asked me to come to headquarters and do the same thing and sort of rebuild headquarters. So we did. And she's, by the way, still at CBP, still one of the top executives there.
Wow.
And so from 13 until I just retired in January, I managed what they called the governance compliance process. So all the acquisition of IT in partnership with other great organizations like PARM and Science and Technology, who manages the system development or the actual system engineering. And they also manage the test and evaluation at headquarters.
Wow, insane. Yeah. All right. So from 2002 to 2008, industry. From 2008 to 2013, what agency? That was ICE?
That was at ICE.
ICE.
That was, They called me Yeah.
And so from 2013 to now, until last year, headquarters,
right. And a couple of different places at headquarters. A couple of years ago when Agile, so we had actually this is a big accomplishment for DHS. We were the first major agency to be Agile completely. There's some smaller agencies that did a good job, and the PTO is amazing. But we actually wrote into our policy, and I wrote it personally or with some contract help. We wrote the first Agile policy in the government saying that you will use Agile techniques to build IT systems. And this was 2016. It was finally signed. And so by 2017, by the end of the year, for the major acquisitions, we were 100% Agile. Now, and then they've just incrementally gotten better over time.
But how can you make things happen in such a large organization? What is the trick? What is the secret? How do you do that, right? I mean, it's so easy. You write something and that happens. How is it to manage these?
Yeah, you need top cover from the very, very top. So the Undersecretary for Management was very involved in this. In fact, signed the memo. We sort of ghost wrote it for him, but he signed a memo saying, you will do this, and that gave us the top cover, and then it went through a couple of them. Russ Deo was the first one who signed it, and then Chip Fulgham was amazing. Till the day he left, he was the guy that was always on top. We had the execs in the middle between the two of us, had changed out a bit. So this is a challenge of, I retired as a GS-15. That's kind of the master sergeant or the senior chief of the federal corps, right? And then you have new SESs that come in every 2 or 3 years in rotation. And you have to brief them on all the ongoing activities when they're coming in with their big ideas of what they want to do. And you have to kind of synthesize that going forward. And that's actually part of how you get things done as well, right? Because it takes a long time. Congress, especially at headquarters, so headquarters has oversight responsibility, but they're not the mission per se. They're the way that a big umbrella over how the mission is done. And the mission gets the money. The mission has the responsibility. So each of the main components who do all this amazing work at DHS, for instance, where I was, they have that responsibility. The headquarters is oversight. And for the major acquisitions, $300 million life cycle and above in cost, they do have to come directly to headquarters for authority to proceed with the Undersecretary for Management, who's also the Chief Acquisition Officer of DHS. And of course, with FITARA, and even before FITARA, frankly, the CIO has a huge responsibility for all IT. So PARM, Program Analysis and Risk Management, they manage all acquisitions at DHS. Science Technology manages all engineering at DHS, but for IT, the CIO and his staff are co-equal with those two for acquisition and for the full engineering life cycle at DHS, for IT systems. And that's the role that I played on. And in DHS, interestingly, we moved that role under the CTO back in the mid-teens because we wanted to get the governance and compliance in lockstep with the emerging technology that was being developed and not have to continually play catch-up with our policy as new technologies emerge. And, of course, over the last couple of years, AI, RPA, low-code, no-code solutions are just – and AI is just blowing things up, And so we had to, it was the best move because we were able to get in front of a lot of the policy and implement and incubate a lot of the policy we needed to make sure we weren't getting left behind on AI and other things like that.
What was your experience and your interactions with the three categories that sometimes, at least I like to think about when dealing with federal employees and trying to help them? End users, program managers, number one. Number two, contracting officers. Number three, small business representatives. So what were you were an end user, a program manager, you were in that part. So what was your experience dealing with end users, your colleagues, with contracting officers and with small business representatives?
Right. So this is, so I come from a very, very, very program management perspective on this, right? And so, but I worked very closely with contracting officers and with small business as well. But I kind of, from my perspective, from the PM, I bucket them both in the same place. Because really, at the end of the day, the PMs just want to get the job done. They have a job to do. They need to get it done. And at the end of the day, conceptually, do I agree that small businesses should be given a shot? Sure. Conceptually. Yeah, that sounds great. Makes good sense to me. Conceptually, do I believe in, full and open competition and should everybody, have a fair shot and all that stuff? Yeah, conceptually I do. At the end of the day, my job as a PM is to get this job done.
Yeah, you don't care.
I have a bunch of requirements I need to meet. I need to get this job done. Now I need to go to the procurement folks and say, listen, what do I need to do to get this job done the fastest, easy? I want to pay I want best value. I don't want to necessarily play the lowest price if I got folks that are not going to be able to do the job. But I need to do the job done. I get it done. I need it done well. What do I need to do next? Just what's in my way? And I sort of understand it because I was the SDLC guy too. So people who just want to build products, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to get you out of my way so I can make these things happen? So that's where I came from with PM. And frankly, I love those folks. They're really good folks. But, we butted heads on a lot of occasions because
with whom?
Our
with
goals
SBR, small business representatives? With small business guys?
No, not necessarily small business. No, with the procurement folks. And I love them.
Gotcha.
I know them to this day, and I have the greatest respect for them because they're following their jobs. But you have to consider that our goals are not 100% aligned. The way that I get my bonus, for instance, or I get my better evals when I was in the headquarters, is to get this job done and to meet this mission. Their goals have to do, now, of course, ultimately the same thing, but the specific goals of, do I have a percentage saved for small business? Do I have full and open competition? Are we following the FAR as closely as we can and as practicable, right? The FAR allows a lot more flexibility than, frankly, some 1102s like to admit, and that's been a long time challenge. But that's it. But at the end of the day, if those two goals mesh, at some point there's a sweet spot where my need to get this job done in a fast and get this procurement done meshes with their need to, have their PALT met and all of those things, then now we end up with, and it always ends up working out.
Now, let me ask you this, what are the, let's say the three, just to put a number, if not I can phrase the question differently. Mm-hmm. What are the main conflicts? And feel free to go to the level of detail if you want.
Yeah.
The three main conflicts between contracting officers and PMs. The way I'm thinking right now is, okay, the PM needs to get something done. The contracting officer is willing to help the PM get things done, solve the problem, achieve the goal, diminish the risk, or whatever that thing is. Now, the contracting officer wants to help, but they need to follow the FAR, they need to do all this. So I imagine, for example, that maybe the contractor doesn't have a sense of urgency. That would be one thing, the time. Then in terms of money, I'm thinking that maybe the PM doesn't care that much about how much money they spend. They care about getting things done. So maybe time, money. What are the main points of conflicts, you think?
Yeah, those are all a big part of the mix, right? So time is huge. The one thing I'll share, and this actually, I know you also sort of wanted to talk about how industry can interact with PMs in the government. One thing everybody needs to understand is PMs in the government have no time to do the job that they need to do. And everybody complains about AI coming and taking jobs. We're welcoming it because we do not have enough people to do the job that we are assigned to do. Every single day, tasks are left undone for the next day, and you finally run out of energy, and you just got to push it to the next day. So with that in mind, and then all day long in meetings, right? Often triple and certainly double booked in meetings almost all the time. Oftentimes triple and quadruple booked, and you have to figure out which one you really need to go to. This is most certainly at headquarters. I don't imagine it's much different at the components. This is where federal men and women spend their life on the PM side. So the challenge here is what I've seen in the past is, and I've shared this with my friends at the procurement office, I would like to go consume, as a PM, I would like to consume procurement as a service, where I come to you with my requirement and you're able to walk me through what I need to do. And and now let's keep in mind, they probably have exactly the same pressures that I just described for the PMs. But there's nobody there to do this for the PMs as a service. Think about when you buy a house. You could go sell your own house. You could do the market research. You can test all the prices. You could study up on it. But you go to a realtor for 3% on both sides. They know the market. They know the title company. They do it every single day, and they can just walk you through it and make it much less painful than it would. You can still do it, but it's just hard. So imagine having a similar service, not only for procurement, but for many other don't even get me started on federal hiring. The same way, right? It's the same thing. So the supervisor, and they always come down to the supervisor has responsibility in the federal government. This guy or gal has got all this stuff to do. And what we've seen, procurement has their PALT, right? Their schedule of how things should work. Well, number one, the PM's always under pressure for time, always under pressure for money. You don't know if you're going to have the money or not. You have to wait to see if the finances are coming through. And a lot of times, procurement's like not doing a thing, or maybe you can put in a $0 procurement request and they'll get some things started. But unless there's money, they don't even start it, and then it just kind of slows things up. So I would love to go somewhere and say, listen, I want to procure this. Go and have it happen, right? But no, what they'll do is, and then maybe it's been a while since I've done one, maybe a couple of years. But they say, okay, here's the package of stuff. They hand you this big stack of paperwork, and you start plugging through it. Oh, by the way, you're still doing your day-to-day operational job. Now you're going through filling out all this stuff. They say do market research. Here's one thing I'll share with everybody. I never knew a thing about GovWin or any of those tools when I was a Fed. They would say go to market research, and I was out there Googling the things I needed. And of course, there is a million websites of small businesses and others who do this stuff. And I'm out there searching for NAICS and things like that. And why weren't we just going to GovWin with all these wonderful companies identified? If that was an option, that was not made clear to me. And I've been on this side now for a couple of months, maybe 6 months now. I'm like, holy cow, if I had these tools,
but wait, how would you have used GovWin? GovWin, they list the requirements, the opportunities. How would you, as a Fed, would have used GovWin to do market research?
I would like to put in my requirements, and I would like to see some companies that met that need pop up, as opportunities. Because otherwise, I was just going cold doing market research. Number one, as a PM, I didn't believe I should have had to do that market research anyway. I think that, I'm not a procurement person, and nor are any other PMs out there, unless they've done a bunch. But, we do, again, back to the realty thing, we do this once every 2 or 3 years for a major procurement on something we're working on. Why would I not go to somebody who does this every single day?
I'm confused too. I thought that contracting people would do. PMs don't do the market research. I don't understand. Are you saying that the contracting people ask you to do the market research?
Yes.
Aren't they supposed to do it?
Well, that seems to, as I've talked with others, that seems to be what the best idea would be. But again, I can't manage that shop or understand the pressures they're under. I can just tell you what I'm seeing from the outside is that market research they expect that to be done by the PM. So anybody wants to build a tool for PMs to help with that, or maybe, I don't know, the GovWin folks or all these other great tools out there, that's something that would be really, really helpful for PMs.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. I love it. All right. So major conflicts are the demand. So the PM goes to the contractor and say, hey, I need this. And the contractor say, okay, great. Here's the big package for you. Fill it. Complete it. And maybe the program manager says, wow. So how can vendors help here? Is there anything they can do here? Well, I guess...
Well, unfortunately not, right? Because that gives them an insight. Unless some vendor wants to come along. I actually tried a couple times to build a core of folks within DHS headquarters where we would be that realtor, if you would. We would be that person that understood all the contracting, and and would have a cadre of trusted vendors across all the disciplines, cyber testing, whatever, right? That would be able to help it. And when a program could come to us and say, hey, I need this, we could actually be that, for say 3%, whatever, we would have to fund it somehow. But we would be able to speed these things through. I did 3 rounds of market research to try to push that through. Twice I went to the internal programs across DHS and asked if they would want that, and they said yes. And then once I went to industry, famously, or infamously, I should say, because I got a lot of my friends really excited. This was 5-10 years ago, maybe, and it never came to fruition. I was doing market research, say, would you do this analysis? Because thinking about it, as we just kind of hinted at, this would probably OCI you out of some of the actual work if you were part of this thing where you were directing where the work would go. And but that's the challenge there, right? We can't really get support on this because we're essentially putting it up for bid to folks who would want to bid on the work. And so that's obviously insider trading in a way.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Bill. Goodbye.